Okay guys, so now that we've got this thing broken into outlines, we've also got the other try logo file made. We're going to save these ones for basically presentation purposes, but what we want to really do is we want to get each one of these individual logos into its own file, and we want to do that specifically so then that way your client could easily just open up the grayscale when they need the grayscale, or they could just open up the spot when they need the spot, or the CMYK when they need the CMYK. So to do this, we're going to go ahead and say File and New and make a new document. And I want a new document with a single artboard, and I want a 6" by 6" document, and our color mode can be 300, our color mode can be CMYK, our raster effects 300 PPI, and all that sort of stuff is there as default. So I'm going to say OK. And really important, you have the ability to take the one that has text on it or the ability to take the one that has already been broken into outlines. And I recommend the outlined one. That way you're not going to run into any kind of issues with people not having the fonts. If they have to send a file or something like that, you'll run into zero issues. The one here with the links, or excuse me, with the fonts still available, that's for if you got to go do cleanup later on, or if another graphic designer's got to go into this file, that's what that's really for. Again, you're just leaving yourself a back door with having that font file there, so it's easily accessible at another time. So anyway, I'm going to highlight this first one here, Countryside Veterinary Medical Group, and I'm going to say Edit and Copy. And I'm just going to jump over here and say Edit and Paste, or Command C for copy on a Mac, Control C on a PC, and Command V or Control V for paste. And there we are. Cool. And again, this is the one, this is your outline file. And so I'm going to go ahead and give this a save too. And I'm going to call it NRP-252 again for my tag. And that is simply going to be called CMYK logo 1. And I'm calling it simply logo 1 because I'm going to make a second version of the logo for the project, right? So, but this is just this is what we have. So I'm going to put this here inside of my NRP final logos, and I'm going to say save and say continue and OK. Now next, I'm going to go back here to my outlines, and I'm going to grab the spots now. So let's grab all this stuff. I may accidentally grab the actual Pantone swatches here, like I did. Okay, that's cool. So I'm going to say Edit and Copy. And then I'm going to come back over here. I'm just going to undo it until it disappears. And then watch. I'll say Edit and Paste. And voila, there we are. And this one here, guys, this is our spot. So I'll say File and Save As. And I'm just going to rename this thing. Instead of CMYK, it's going to be called Spot. And say Save. And continue. And OK. Great. And then last but not least, I'm going to grab the grayscale one and do the same exact thing. Edit and Copy. Jump over to here. Backtrack with a Edit and Undo, and then Edit and Paste. And there we are again. File, Save As, and gray. And continue. Now, something that you're probably also going to want to have along with the AI file, okay? Because the AI file stands for Adobe Illustrator, but you're going to want to have some sort of a generic file format. And there's a couple that you can pick from. And you probably want to just push them out to your clients anyway. These should just be kind of regular things that you do. So if I take a look at my files here really quick, in my NRP final files, I have my fonts folder, right? I've got my layered logo, which actually I'm going to get into how to make that in a second. But I've got my CMYK logo 1, my gray logo 1, my spot logo 1, and then I got my try logos. So all these are Adobe Illustrator files. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a new folder here, and I'm going to call this AI files. Because I have a font files, right? So how about AI files? So I'll take all of those and put them right inside there. I'm going to make another folder, and I'm going to call this EPS files. and then a third folder, and I'm going to call this, one in the right spot, PDF files. Okay, so let's talk about EPSs. What is an EPS? Well, EPS stands for encapsulated PostScript. So if I say file and save as, and I go ahead and I put this into the EPS files, and I grab this thing, okay? I'm just going to change my format from Adobe Illustrator to EPS. And an EPS simply is a more generic vector file. And then it tells us sometimes that it always will tell us that when we're using transparency, it could run into problems, but it's going to be okay, I promise. So we'll say continue. And now in an EPS file, because there's some questions here. So I want to know what kind of EPS. You pick whatever version software you have. So right now I'm using CC, so that's what I'm going to work with. Preview format, we want a TIFF, and we want it to be color. Transparent or opaque, we want transparency. Okay, so we want that. We'll embed fonts, even though we're not going to be using them here. And we can include PostScript in RGB files. We can do a bunch of stuff. So these are all defaults, and I'm going to leave them all turned on and say OK. And it writes the EPS format. So I would go ahead and I would do that for the CMYK version. File, save as, change it to EPS, put it in the EPS files. Okay, that. And then I would also do it for the spot. File, save as, and convert that to an EPS as well. Put in the EPS folder and continue. So that's one way to do that. Now, EPS, been around forever, generic vector format. Everybody knows what it is. It works everywhere. There's another one that we go ahead and we use on a regular basis, and that's known as a PDF. PDF, sometimes known as printer document file, better known as portable document file, is something that pretty much everyone's familiar with. That one has permeated society, that extension. And Illustrator files essentially are PDFs. You know, you can take any AI file and open it up in Acrobat and it'll work, and open it up in any PDF reader and it'll work. So that's good to know. The only thing is it doesn't appreciate layers. So if you have things that are hidden underneath layers, it doesn't understand that, and it's just going to show everything. So that could be a problem. But as far as everything else goes, you know, people know what PDFs are. We have all different kind of PDF readers, like on our phone and stuff like that. So it's in your best interest to go ahead and take your logos again and then push them out as a portable document file as well. So we'll call it a PDF. I'll put it inside here and say save. And it wants us to, these are all the general things. One big thing, it wants to know if you want to preserve Illustrator editing capabilities. And if you do this, what it's going to do is going to make a little bit larger file, but I recommend doing it because you never know if that's the only file you got to work with, because Illustrator can read PDFs as well and open them up and allow you to, and you can edit them for the most part. But sometimes you run into problems if you don't check that. So I always check that. You know, it makes the file a little bit bigger, but in my opinion, it's you know, the right thing to do in the long run. So we'll go ahead. Let's change this to a PDF. Put in the PDF files. Save it. Say save. And last but not least, take the spot. Save as. Save in as a PDF inside the PDF folder, and say save PDF. And there you go. So now when I look at my files, right, I've got AI files. And the AI file is kind of our catch-all. The AI files, those are for a graphic designer, right? The EPS files, this is for maybe a printer, right? Like somebody to go ahead and they're essentially going to be the, you know, like person who's going to work on maybe the business card or the, I don't know, brochure or something like that. PDF files, that's really for the user in many ways. They won't even know the difference between a CMYK and a spot sometimes. I mean, sometimes they will, but for the most part, I bet you they wouldn't, right? And that's not to kind of say that there's a problem with them, you know, their knowledge base or anything like that, but they just probably wouldn't see it. It's funny though, now that it's been converted to a PDF, you can really see the difference in what a CMYK yellow looks like and then what that spot yellow looks like. It's a noticeable difference actually when you look at it here. So that's kind of interesting. So yeah, so now we've gone ahead and we've pushed out every kind of vector that we can imagine. We've got our font files, we've got everything that we need. So this is what you would like to hand over to a client whenever you're doing any kind of logo work, because they're going to really appreciate it. Then that way they don't have to call you back up and try to get files that maybe you worked on 2.5 years beforehand. So this is definitely the best way to go. Next, we're going to take a look at kind of breaking this logo apart into layers and then building it as a Photoshop document as well. Thank you.